Hi guys, Luton here, and back on Battlefield 4 Jungle Map CTE. You remember that last time I wasn't particularly blown away by this map. I thought it was fairly generic, not that interesting, needed some big changes. It's pleasing to see that they've actually made some very significant changes to this map, and not just in a visual foliage point of view, because I was concerned that that's all that was going to happen. You can see here as well that this area at A now has some buildings in place, although it is disappointing that they are just the stock buildings from Paracel Storm or Propaganda, although that's not surprising within a Battlefield context, because that is what people do in Battlefield. They tend to copy paste buildings because that's just the way the game has always been, and also it's potentially a little much to expect brand new custom buildings just for one area. However, this area could benefit from some of that. It would be cool to see some more customized buildings here. Perhaps there could be, I don't know, a helicopter depot, some kind of custom military base, which is really interesting, with some different routes in and around, maybe a little underground section. There could be some really interesting elements here rather than just the stock buildings. So I hope that they sort of take this on and really sort of do something with it. Likewise, some of the other bases on the map. The actual landscape topography is the majority of the things that have changed in this update, and that is actually really, really good. But what I want to see still is some very unique custom areas, like for example the waterfall, like for example right here, and perhaps over at some of the other side, E and D. We'll talk a little bit about those when we get there. So you can see right now one of the major things that they've changed is adding a lot more plants in, a lot more foliage, a lot more jungle elements. And this is good, but obviously it needs to go further. But it's good to see that this has been obviously added to. It was pretty obvious that they were going to do this, but it's just pleasing to see that they've done it in the right way. There's lots of dense foliage rather than sort of scattered areas where it sort of bleeds together. You can also see as we're driving to D here that they have changed this kind of road layout. The topography has changed quite a lot. And the major thing that you'll notice is in the middle of the map that the big hill, the big mountain, seems to have been completely removed. That is obviously a really good thing, because it just was an area where people are going to take the helicopter, they're going to get on top of and just snipe down. Verticality in this map has been reduced significantly. We were very worried about it becoming a bit of a sniper map before. Obviously the plants and foliage will make a difference in terms of how much you can snipe anyway, but they really have reduced it right back down. What you have right now is a lot of sort of undulating, flowing terrain. So it kind of comes up and down, it peaks and moves around, and that gives some really, really, really good gunplay. And I was actually very pleased about how it went down. We were only playing with about sort of 10 to 15 people aside on this one this evening. It wasn't a gigantic game, but we found that we were having enough contact between bases and still having some reasonable gunplay. So that was a really good thing to see. The best thing about this kind of, rising and falling terrain you can see here as we're driving around is that it means that you can kind of have on and off engagements rather than just trying to run across an open area of land and just be picked off because you don't have a lot of cover. Notice this area is a little open as well compared to some of the more dense areas. Notice this was the valley which ran through before, and you can see that they've Z-brushed in a lot of sort of rocks over the top right here, so that's looking quite nice. Again, this could be a really, really interesting thing. There is some vertical gameplay here, because you can see through this gorge there is obviously gaps above. I'm hoping there's something like, we'll have like dripping water coming down here, lots of vines and plants and sort of things moving around. That would be really cool to make it sort of like this dense little gorge you have to push through. Some nice light coming down as well, that would be fantastic. Okay, moving into C right here, and you can see that C hasn't changed greatly. It's got some new plants around it and stuff, but overall it's still the same kind of village town. Some of the buildings have moved a little bit, I think, but overall it still remains relatively the same. That was probably quite predictable that it was going to. Similarly, D hasn't altered a great deal, neither has E or B. B has moved, I think, a little closer to the waterfall. We'll look at that over there in a minute. B for me is still the biggest problem flag of all. It's the most underexploited. It really could be used much better to its full potential, and right now it feels like it's just the waterfall flag rather than being, a very significant flag, something that you'll really remember, something that really will get the most out of this map. We'll talk a little bit about that now, and also perhaps on another video as well, because I want to showcase some ideas for what could actually happen there at the waterfall. So here we are at D again, driving through, and we're moving across to E. And you can see there's lots of sort of scattered vehicles, more trees and things going around, lots of sort of bamboo plants. And then we come into the water. Again, Really dislike the fact that it throws you off of here. Some people are saying that they think rib boats should come in. I think completely pointless. Completely pointless to have rib boats coming in here, because what will happen with the rib boats, let me just come back to that. Look at the helicopter right here. We were talking about the helicopter area here could be a really better feature. It needs to have more kind of crashed elements. The ground around this should really be maybe thrown up into sort of as if it's like smashed into the dirt, so like ribbing going through the dirt there, where it sort of created waves into the ground as it's crashed. Lots of burning all around, scorched earth, you know, somewhere where you can like jump into a sort of pothole and go prone. That's really what you want to see. Yeah, the rib boats point of view though, people were saying about rib boats, I just think complete waste of a resource, and you know, negatively impact the rest of the map. Adding rib boats almost just for the sake of it seems just kind of stupid. You'd have to significantly increase the river presence on the map to make it work, and not to mention the fact that people really barely use rib boats apart from maps like Parasol Storm anyway. Most of the time what people use rib boats for is to quickly, and people remember this from Bad Company as well, or any Battlefield even, you use a rib boat as a transport method to go from spawn to a section of the map, and then you just ditch it. And that's what will happen on this map if they put rib boats, or if people pressure too much to put rib boats in. It's a complete waste. It's a stupid thing to do. Don't do it. It's not necessary. In fact, if anything, what I would like to see is that the rivers here stop being deep enough that you can just like lose your vehicle in, because it's super irritating when that happens and you're trying to move quickly around the map. It interrupts the flow of the game. It interrupts your movement around the map. See, right here we have a little ford and you move through. I suppose the only thing that you could say on a counterpoint with that is that if there are deep and narrow areas, it means that you have to focus your vehicles around actually using the correct crossing paths for the vehicles, instead of just driving wherever the hell you want to go all the time. So I suppose there's like a sort of 50-50 argument right there. They've added in some new roads you can see right here, so as we're driving around it takes us to different bases, and this one goes off to the left, but you can just go straight on through to sea if you want as well there. But overall, like I say, if you look at the general layout of this map, it feels much more like you can move point to point. And we were talking a bit about this. Lone Wolf was on with me and Super was on with me, and we all agreed that you were able to have good running battles. You were able to have nice engagements from point to point, base to base. You could run between sections without feeling like you were overexposed all the time. So they've really adjusted the overall the geography, the topography of the map to make it feel much better. And you can see I'm driving off in this direction right here. More of these kind of small, medium-sized hills and ridges, and lots of nice foliage cover in between. How many times have I said foliage in this video? So we're coming back over to C and D. Nice driving skills right there with a capital Z. D as well is a base which is not too bad right now, but I feel like it could use some embellishment. I would like to see some really big Amazon logs, not these little pissy logs, you know, some big Amazon sort of, or you know, whatever, lots of bamboo stacks or something like this, you know. Also this rock right here, I was saying, look, it's got like a little undercut, and I said how cool would it be if we had lots of vines and things hanging down off there, but not just, you know, as a visual point, it's something you can actually use as cover, vines and stuff that hang down and you can actually hide in underneath. It would be a great thing there. You can, you know, sort of stealth cap. Maybe people have to worry about that and they have to throw a grenade in there, they have to think about clearing it out, so that would be a cool little thing to have in there. But D, it needs a little embellishment right now. It feels a little bit sterile. Okay, here we are. I wanted to pick up a helicopter, just fly around, give you an idea just of the tree cover. You can see that the trees and the plants really cover a good proportion of the map now. You can see the waterfall there, and B, look at B's proximity to the waterfall. You can see that it's still a little way away, and it doesn't really feel like the waterfall base at all. It's kind of like you can cap it without even looking at the waterfall. It still feels like the waterfall is just kind of underused and wasted. Like, I find myself looking at it very little in this map, and I actually think that the base B needs to be the waterfall. I'm going to demonstrate in another video very quickly about what I think that should be, but I'm going to do it on a separate one because I want to sort of illustrate and talk specifically about that. If you look up at the top here, you can see that they've added some trees and bushes to the ridge lines, and again, that's just helping to make this whole area feel more jungly and sort of part of an environment rather than just something that's been slapped down. So it's all moving in the right direction, and I've really enjoyed playing this through this evening, even though it was quite small. I can actually see that this is going to have some very furious, good gameplay on this map, and that's a positive thing at this stage if you can start to see that's going to happen. And it's something that really you can take forward into the future and think about this, is that, like, you know, a lot of the time when people are trying to play objectives for the map and when they're trying to have good flow on the map, that can often be really interrupted by the design of the map, by the way in which it channels players, the way in which it can prevent people, like they can't move forward. I think what's good about this map so far is that it does feel like you can move forward and you don't feel constantly pinned down. That's a good thing because it means public players won't feel like they're trapped and they can actually move around the map, which means that you're more likely to have more fluid, more interesting gameplay. Over on A here as well, like I say, it's a base that I feel there's a problem. There's loads you could do with there. You could have a military base, you could have some kind of bunker system right there, you could have a temple. If there was a temple, that really, you know, should be a lot more interesting. B is still the biggest contention for me. E needs to be more of a helicopter crash instead of just the heli sitting down there. And D as well, like I feel with D, it needs to have more interesting wood stuff there, lots more, maybe some machinery and things going around. That's going to make that base more interesting. So overall, really good changes to the CTE, and I've been pleased personally that they have made this. I was feeling very kind of apathetic and disappointed with the first iteration, and that it just wasn't going to be what it could have been. I was going to feel like it would be a wasted opportunity, but it's definitely sort of moving much further in the right direction now, which is something that I really, really wanted to see. So that's positive, and it's nice as well to be objective about these things, you know, give you my honest opinion right from the word go on the first one and say, hey, I don't think this is up to scratch. I thought it just looked kind of crap. I didn't like the way some things were designed. It had too much focus on verticality in some elements, and that's been kind of changed up and removed. And, you know, it's good to have that. Being blindly positive all of the time doesn't help anybody. You need to give, like, proper critical analysis of things, and then when changes actually happen, you can say, hey, look, this has changed, now it's really good, you know, instead of just being excited and positive all the time. That's not a good thing for anybody, and it doesn't help anything in the development of the game whatsoever. And if anything, I think that's been the case with Hardline. I think people were way too lenient on them for a long time up to that point. You know, you need to be harsh, you need to be critical, so that we can see the proper changes that need to happen in order to make things good. Tell me your thoughts about this, guys. Tell me what you think of the jungle map so far, and I'm going to have some more bits and pieces coming up very soon. Thanks for watching. See you next time.